Class of 2023 may be seated. Welcome. On behalf of the faculty and staff of the School of Pharmacy, I would like to thank you for joining us this afternoon to honor another milestone for the class of 2023. For our visitors, I am Dr. Mary Euler, Professor and Associate Dean of Admissions and Student Affairs for the School of Pharmacy, and I have the honor of emceeing this event tonight. The ceremony is a celebration of the class of 2023's rite of passage as they leave the didactic curriculum and move out in the classroom and move into their final phase, a year of practice experiences. I would like to start by providing a bit of history to explain the background behind the Bowl of Hygeia ceremony. This evening's ceremony takes its name from the world of Greco-Roman mythology. In that ancient culture, most believed that nearly every aspect of life was influenced by one or more gods or goddesses. The treatment and prevention of diseases were certainly no exception. Hygeia, the namesake of tonight's program, was widely regarded as the goddess of health and was well known in mythology as the daughter of the physician god Asclepios. Hygeia accompanied her father as he traveled about treating the sick and injured. Her primary role was to prepare or compound a healing medicine and then offer it to the patient. Her name remains with us today as the root word of hygiene. In numerous surviving artifacts, Hygeia is usually shown carrying in her outstretched hand a very shallow bowl called a phial, forerunner of our current pharmaceutical word vial. Into this bowl, she would place the remedy that she had created and then administer it to the patient for his or her consumption. A central part of this image depicted on the front cover of your program was the sacred serpent, usually shown entwined around Hygeia's arm, with its head poised above the rim of the bowl, or as my daughter used to call it, that pharmacy snake thing. And from this bowl, the serpent would administer the medication. The inclusion of the image of the serpent was not done for artistic effect. It was quite intentional. The serpent held particular significance in the ancient world, deemed to hold special powers. Specifically, they were believed to possess and transfer the knowledge of healing, or medicines, as they were called by the Greek. I'm sorry, I just went completely off. Transfer the knowledge of healing herbs or medicine, or as they were called by the Greek, pharmakon, a word which we have derived the term pharmacy. In this process, serpents were symbolically able to pass the healing powers of the medicine to the patient. It was also believed that snakes never slept, thus enhancing their image as the perpetual guardian of health. Indeed, these snakes were held in very high regard, and typically one or more rooms of the temple were dedicated solely for the care and feeding of the resident serpents. Such rooms were typically filled with cages full of rodents who would be fed to the snakes in hopes that the well-fed serpent would not stray far from home and also be on call when needed. While belief in the mythological powers of Hygeia have been lost, over time, the image of Hygeia's bowl and the serpent have survived up to the present. The symbol is used yet today throughout the world to depict the art and practice of pharmacy. As for the link between Hygeia and the purpose of tonight's program, the students about to be recognized will soon make a significant change in their focus. To this, they will add the knowledge, wisdom, and skills of their experienced preceptors. The end result will be a continual passing along of knowledge from generation to generation of practitioners to improve the health of those we serve. As a reminder of your academic roots, each of you will be presented with a pin bearing the flying WV logo, one of the most recognized collegiate symbols in the United States. Congratulations to the class of 2023. May you wear this pin with pride as you carry with you the ancient healing tradition of Hygeia. And now, And now it is my pleasure to introduce Mary Catherine Platts, a native of Charleston, West Virginia, and president of the School of Pharmacy class of 2022, She will provide a student perspective.
Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, faculty, and most importantly, the West Virginia University School of Pharmacy class of 2023. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. First and foremost, from my class to yours, congratulations on reaching this milestone. You should all be extremely proud of what you have accomplished. Successfully completing the didactic portion of pharmacy school is a challenge, and you have been able to complete this during a very non-traditional time in our history. As you begin your P4 year of experiential learning, you will have the opportunity to meet new people, serve a variety of patients, make mistakes, learn from them, and grow as future pharmacists. I urge you to consider these three ideals as you complete this exciting year ahead of you. 1, maintain balance. 2, be honest. And 3, make the most out of every opportunity. Maintain balance. Most of you have spent your life in the classroom. This next year may be your first experience working full-time. My advice to you is make this a year of transitions. Prepare yourself to take on a new job, move to a new town, and start a new chapter in your life. Try and form new habits while you still have the security of being in school. Above all else, understand that although being a pharmacist is a great career, it's not the end-all be-all of your life. Take this opportunity to devote time to the things that matter most to you. Maintain a balance between your friends, family, career, and hobbies. Be honest. Honesty can be difficult. It's even more difficult to be honest with yourself. When thinking about yourself, remember that you are a human and mistakes are a learning opportunity. Your preceptors understand this, your family understands this, and you should too. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Put your ego aside and embrace the chance to learn something new. Over the next year and many more, you will be asked many questions, and inevitably, you will answer some of these questions incorrectly. Additionally, you may be asked questions that you don't know the answer to, and that's okay also. Be humble and admit that you don't know the answer. Small failures like these provide you with the chance to grow. In these instances, look up the answer and try to learn for yourself what went wrong. You are much more likely to remember something after an uncomfortable experience involving mistakes and persistence than one where you are provided the correct answer. Make the most out of every opportunity. Over the next year, you will be exposed to a variety of rotations that are designed to give you practice in certain settings or specific skills. Don't let this stop you from learning all that you can from a particular site or preceptor. You can make your rotations unique to you by asking to experience more. Most of the time, this will be met with excitement from your preceptor. If you find yourself on a rotation that you don't think will apply to your future practice, then make it so that it will. Observe the management, the workflow, any other characteristic that you can take and put part of you as you become a practicing pharmacist. On top of that, simply have fun. Some of you will be traveling to new and exciting places, others staying in Morgantown, and some just traveling around the state. No matter where you are, make memories and spend time with the people you care about. Throughout pharmacy school, our classmates have become our friends. They've become our family. They've supported us through the highs and lows. So make the most out of every opportunity that you have left with them. Your P4 year is unique to you. And because of this, I wanted to include the thoughts and advice of my fellow classmates here today. I would like to thank them not only for their insight, but also for everything we have accomplished together over the past 4 years. To close, I would like to finish with these words that my dad hung in our bathroom as kids, and they ended up sticking with me throughout my life. Your mind is a garden, your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. Once again, congratulations, West Virginia University School of Pharmacy class of 2023. And best of luck as you continue to grow both outside of and within the profession of pharmacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Catherine, for your great words. And I know they will stick with the class of 2023 as they begin this very exciting year. We're now going to begin the pinning ceremony. And I'm going to turn over part of that to my colleague, Jen Clutter. Most of you probably noticed that my voice is a little crackly, and I do not want to mess up on anyone's names. So I want to make sure that they're pronounced correctly and you don't have to suffer through this. All right. Caitlin, will you help Emelise to and her row? All of you should follow her. All right. Otherwise, it's going to be a very long evening. All right. And I would like to, as Jennifer's coming up here, I would like to introduce the individuals who will be helping with the pinning this evening. Dr. Benoit Driscart, Dr. Kimberly Kelly, Dr. Jay Martello, and Dr. Ashley McMillan.
All right, well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the class of 2023. Emelise Alejandro Ramirez, Las Piedras, Puerto Rico. Ramla Al-Shakali from Shah Shakia, Saudi Arabia. Farol Amente from Adama, Oromia, Ethiopia. Gianna Antonone, Weirton, West Virginia. Sarah Ayers, Waterford, Virginia. Lucas Belt, Morgantown, West Virginia. Carrie Blaney, Franklin, Massachusetts. Sydney Bongiorni, Burgettstown, Pennsylvania. Emily Bowman, Mount Clair, West Virginia. Adam Cavendish, Cross Lanes, West Virginia. Zachary Cook, Mullins, West Virginia. Jackie Corley, Morgantown, West Virginia. Hunter Curry, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Maureen Fagan, Scottdale, Pennsylvania. Francesca Farron, Weirton, West Virginia. Autumn Feist, Bridgeport, West Virginia. Autumn Fleming, also from Bridgeport, West Virginia. Just as an aside, these two ladies confused the heck out of me when we were at orientation, when I'm trying to line them up for the first time. It was great fun. Evan Floor, Fairmont, West Virginia. Isaac Floor, Fairmont, West Virginia. Autumn Fogel, Central City, Pennsylvania. Olivia Fortune, Carnegie, Pennsylvania. William Gu, Morgantown, West Virginia. Shaylee Gunzenhauser, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Noah Hall, Bridgeport, West Virginia. Haley Hardman, Bridgeport, West Virginia. Jonathan Harkness, St. Mary's, West Virginia. Samantha Harpel, Butler, Pennsylvania. Brandon Harvey, Cross Lanes, West Virginia. Elizabeth Hayhurst, Fairmont, West Virginia. Lauren Hopper, Evans, West Virginia. Henry Hornsby III, Beckley, West Virginia. Lexi Jackson, Cox's Mills, West Virginia. Taylor Jones, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Fatim Kassira, Dearborn, Michigan. Jarina Kayest, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Connor Kelly, Morgantown, West Virginia. Mariana Keebach, Wheeling, West Virginia. Brooke Kilkowski, Morgantown, West Virginia. Did I get it? Tyler Lawrence, Parkersburg, West Virginia. Kim Lee, Beckley, West Virginia. Clara Lukumsky, Morgantown, West Virginia. Jill Meadows, Camp Creek, West Virginia. Michael Mills, the flu shot guy, Weirton, West Virginia. Proudly, I can say that Mike gave me my flu shot this year. Allison Morris, Parkersburg, West Virginia. Miranda Moser, Morgantown, West Virginia. Olivia Murray, Morgantown, West Virginia. Morgan Neville, Germantown, Maryland. Trenton Ponsegree, Scott Depot, West Virginia. Isaac Pringle, West Union, West Virginia. Caitlin Ryan, Morgantown, West Virginia. Maxwell Schubel, Morgantown, West Virginia. Dixie Shahan, Fellowsville, West Virginia. Charles Stanley, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Molly Schwartzmiller, Chester, West Virginia. Ryan Villain, Fairmont, West Virginia. Alexandra Weaver, Charleston, West Virginia. Andrea Weaver, Charleston, West Virginia. Emily Wilfong, Clarksburg, West Virginia. Lindsay Williams, Charlestown, West Virginia. Seneca Williams, Fairmont, West Virginia. Jimmy Wyland, Chest Springs, Pennsylvania. Congratulations to the class of 2023. I now welcome Dr. McMillan to the podium to lead the class in the oath of the pharmacist.
Please stand. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to devote myself to a lifetime of service to others through the profession of pharmacy. In fulfilling this vow, I will consider the welfare of humanity and relief of suffering my primary concerns. I will promote inclusion, embrace diversity, and advocate for justice to advance health equity. I will apply my knowledge, experience, and skills to the best of my ability to assure optimal outcomes for all patients. I will respect and protect all personal and health information entrusted to me. I will accept the responsibility to improve my professional knowledge, expertise, and self-awareness. I will hold myself and my colleagues to the highest principles of our professions: moral, ethical, and legal conduct. I will embrace and advocate changes that improve patient care. I will utilize my knowledge, skills, experiences, and values to prepare the next generation of pharmacists. I take these vows voluntarily with the full realization of the responsibility with which I am entrusted by the public. Okay, please give the class of 2023 a round of applause. All you.
Thank you, Dr. McMillan, and you may be seated. We're almost done. I would like to thank all the faculty, staff who have assisted in the developing of today's program, especially Brenda Higa, who her hard work in organizing this, she pretty much does it on, and she does it all on her own, even though we'd like to help. But this is very important to her and she wants to make sure it's perfect. So we let her do it. But thank you, Brenda. Really, really appreciate it. I also want to thank our student volunteers who are here today. Adam Bruner, Christiane Messerly, Brittany Davis, Jordan McMillan, and Caitlin Blaine. Thank you for being here. Now you know what has to be done, so you'll be ready next year. All right. Again, congratulations once again to all of you. 3 years has gone very quickly for me. And I told you it would. I know today is a big day, last day of classes. Finals are still coming up next week, but please enjoy this really special time in your life and be careful. And we'll see you back here next week for finals. But congratulations to all of you. Thank you all for attending the Bowl of Hygeia ceremony for this class. And you can all, I would like to let the students exit first. So if you will just start your exit out to the back. We do have some famous West Virginia or the WV flying logo, whatever, cookies. Please take some with you as you go and enjoy this evening with your student. Take care.